What's up, everybody? How's it going? Got this little grooving song going on a Monday night. I enjoy it. It's the Living Fourth. We're going to talk some Queen's Hope tonight. Happy Brotherhood release week, though, of course. We'll chat on that in a little bit. We got a little Obi-Wan news from May the 4th and a few congratulations on tonight's show. But without further ado, it was a sunny day. I'm feeling good. I'm happy you're here. West Punch it. Welcome to the Living Force, a UTD Network podcast all about Star Wars books. Just plain and simple. They're freaking grand. I am one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and yes, Stephanie, I did get a haircut. Thank you. Gotta look fresh for y'all. Celebration in Check's Watch 2 weeks or so. Oh my god. Cannot wait, because when I'm at Star Wars Celebration, I will see Dr. Corey Hilton. What's up, man?
Hello. I am, well, I'm not great, to be honest. I destroyed my knee yesterday somehow.
You did. That was bad.
Yeah, the embarrassing part is I was literally not doing anything except for walking. Who knew that was dangerous for your legs?
That's it now.
Yeah, bad timing, man. I, not to get too graphic, I subluxed my patella, which basically means I put my kneecap on the side of my leg. It's not where it's supposed to go. It's supposed to be in the front, not on the side.
You just gave it a good smack? It a
good smack. I'm not really sure what happened. It happened really quickly. But I was in a lot of pain yesterday. My knee's kind of swollen up today, and we have a whole hell of a lot of walking in like 2 weeks. Of course, we're going to Disney for a day. Celebration's coming up. So I'm like pounding NSAIDs and keeping it wrapped up in a knee sleeve and all kinds of stuff. I'm hoping I can walk okay by the time Celebration rolls around. But yeah, better starts to my week, that's for sure.
I guess so, man. I think the only person in more pain than you yesterday was Dr. Charles Hankel after that Heat game.
Yeah, that one was painful. I am not pounding NSAIDs, and no one should do that. Corey, you know better than that. This podcast for medical advice.
Oh, I'm glad you're here to keep us grounded, Charles. But of course, no one keeps us grounded to this earth, to this plane, to this material realm more than the grounding, safe, luminescent presence of Wes Jenkins.
Hello, everyone. I would like to update everybody on my Old Republic reading. I am done with the 4-book series. So wow. I finished Revan months ago, but then I started Deceived, Annihilation, and Fatal Alliance. Annihilation's the last one. But finished all 4. Thought it was all right. It was good to listen to on the way to work. So it wasn't excellent by any means.
Which was your favorite?
My favorite one was Deceived. Deceived was my favorite because it was.
Is it the Malgus one? It's the Malgus one, right?
Yes, that is definitely the Malgus one.
Yeah,
I think Deceived was one of the ones was my favorite because it has a lot of Sith and Jedi lore. But I also liked Fatal Alliance because that was like true legendsy stuff, like back with with droids and the way that droids took over and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but it was a good one. So those two are my favorite, Deceived and Fatal Alliance.
Well,
Nice.
I'm glad you had a great time, and I hope that those brought you as much joy as our last host brings me. It's Emma Park, back with Popular Demand. What's up, Emma?
Hello, everybody. I hope no one's sick of me yet. It's good to be back. And Corey, I can try to figure out how to build a sidecar for my wheelchair at Celebration if you like.
Yeah, please do.
Oh my God, yes!
Please do. Yeah,
Yes,
I mean,
let's do it.
all jokes aside, I was like, I did look up to see how far in advance I had to contact like the ADA services at Celebration. I mean, I don't know, man. I can walk okay, but like after walking around Disney all day and everything, I don't know if that would be not good. So you can sit in the wheelchair, Emma, and I'll just sit in your lap, and somebody can push both of us.
It'll work great. It'll work great. Yeah.
Perfect. And you know what? At the party on Saturday night, we can get you on Corey, and then the two of you can race. It'll be great. All right.
Yes.
Hell yes. Let's do that.
Speaking of Celebration, of course, I wanted to just celebrate a little bit myself because today I finally got a package I've been waiting on for weeks. I know some people got these certain things a while back, but today I got my first ever in my life Star Wars Celebration media badge and badge.
Ooh.
It's physical. It's Cloud City. I have not activated it yet, obviously. Activations don't happen until next week. It's just exciting because now it's physical. It's happening. I hope that all of you that are getting your badges are keeping up with the Star Wars Celebration Twitter account. They posted some information today about how to register for the virtual panels. That's going up on the 12th, this Thursday. So head over to Twitter, go to StarWarsCelebration.com as well, or their website. I don't know if that's the right URL. Go check out there. You can use your badge to register for lightning lanes. You can use your email to register for virtual queues, all that jazz. But it's happening. We're
That's right.
so
Good,
close.
It feels
good
so
time
real.
to plug. Yeah, it does feel so real. Good time to plug Celebration too, right? The UTini party.
That's right.
At, Still Craft Garden Grove. Is that what it is? I think it is. Yeah.
Steelcraft, yeah.
Yeah,
Steel
Stillcraft.
Craft.
Check it out. utini.com/celebration. Learn about all the details there.
Saturday night, 6 p.m. to 9. Yes, there will be some celebration stuff going on. If you come right at the beginning of the party, that's awesome. If you come later on, we'll be there as well. We would love to see you. And if you want to see the celebration, we have a little more news coming in our weekly roundup segment. But first, a congratulations from all of us at the Living Force to some folks on our sister shows. Of course, we have Emma here from the Cosmic Force, but we want to give some special congratulations both to the Cosmic Force host, Jacob, who just finished his first year of law school. As any of you that have gone through that know, it is incredibly difficult. So well done, dude. Jacob, for those of you that may not watch the Cosmic Force, is heading off for a few months across the literal world. Emma, has he given the full details of the Cosmic Force? I feel like I don't want to out him. I feel like he did.
Yeah, I mean, he just mentioned that, it's a summer internship, and God, I'm going to miss him.
Yeah.
If last week was any indication, it's like, oh my God.
You'll be great, new producer. You're going to rock it.
Yeah.
But Jacob officially got done. And then, of course, our buddies over on Legends Look Back, Jared and Freddie, both finished their master's degrees. They've
Wowza.
achieved the rank of master
That's awesome.
on the Jedi Council.
Crazy
well
at the
done,
exact
guys.
same time for both of them. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know.
seriously.
That's a huge.
the,
That's a huge accomplishment, especially if
It is.
you're working at the same time.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, for sure.
Congratulations,
For sure.
gentlemen.
And Jared's got a family and all that stuff too, and that's on top of him. Freddie's got a full-time job. He's like the busiest person I've ever met. Like it's crazy. It's a huge accomplishment to do that. Like both of those at the same time. And Jacob too, law school and med school. I get it. Those things ain't no joke. So huge accomplishment. And I gotta say, the list of higher ed degrees on the Utini team is stacking up, dude. Holy
It's
smokes.
imposing.
Right.
Not going to lie. It's a little
Doctors,
threatening.
lawyers, masters, it's ridiculous. We should count up sometime how many degrees we have. It's probably ridiculous.
I'd love it. Congrats all. And I know that some folks are going to keep going, so well done. Study hard, get some sleep, but celebrate. You have absolutely earned it. Now, speaking of celebrations, of course, tomorrow we're going to celebrate in a different way because it's the release day of Star Wars Brotherhood, the debut Star Wars novel by Mike Chen. As we did with some previous releases, we are going to announce right now the overall score label that it's gotten, because if you've missed our last couple shows, Utini has gotten rid of our numbered scoring system, and we now just have labels and kind of tiers of books. We'd love to reveal that on the show now tonight, as well as the verdict statement, because as you know, on release day, Utini releases written and video reviews. You can go to utini.com tomorrow to see my full written review, and go to our YouTube channel to see that full video. So if you don't want to hear anything, plug your ears for 15 seconds, or skip ahead in the podcast if you're listening later. But, drum roll please. Brotherhood by Mike Chen received an overall score of incredible. Amazing stuff.
Yeah.
And the review statement we all put it together is this. By combining precise and deep character development of old favorites and new standouts with strong plot, political and social commentary, and thrilling action, Mike Chen makes a striking debut in his first full-length Star Wars novel.
That's fantastic.
Very pleased with it.
Do you have you don't happen to have the categories in front of you, do you? I can find them
Oh, I
if you
do.
don't.
I absolutely do.
Yeah. Tell us what incredible means, because we've changed up our review system lately, and this is one of the first books to get it, right?
Yes, it actually.
You
Incredible.
gotta memorize at some point.
Incredible means that Obi-Wan is in it, Corey. That's all that you
Just by
need to know.
default. So incredible Yes, Obi-Wan Kenobi is in the book, but also Incredibles is the second tier below. Its masterpiece is our highest ranking in Utini. Very few books get that. Incredible is one below, and it means these books are extraordinary in their own right and highly recommended as one of the best Star Wars books in the reading universe. An Incredible book is one that was a joy to read and seriously impressed us with inspiring new ideas or ideas true to Star Wars storytelling that were expanded on in a new way. These books are exceptionally memorable and came to the forefront of your mind when thinking about the top Star Wars books that exist. Simply put, this book was hard to put down and comes highly recommended. And if you read our full review tomorrow or watch the video, you will see, or I believe it's only the written review, you'll see the plot, the characters, the originality of the writing, all of that is as normal, but gone are the numbers, gone are the comparisons of decimals. All you need to know is this is an incredible book, and I'm so excited for all of you to share in it tomorrow. Because come on, release day, release weeks are one of the best parts about being in the Star Wars book community. It's so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely love it. So congrats to Mike Chen on that incredible, literally and figuratively, debut. Now, if you want to be incredible, folks, and you do, I know you want to be an incredible person. We all do. You want to be informed about the most incredible Jedi, who, as Charles said, is Obi-Wan freaking Kenobi. And next week, you can do that in all the Utini network of shows. Because, my friends, it's Kenobi week. It's happening. Charles, how you feeling? How you feeling? Your guy's coming up.
Listen, this is how you know how excited I am about this. It's going to make up for anything that happens in the NBA playoffs. If the Heat lose their next 2 games and they're knocked out, I still have Kenobi.
Wow.
You can't take that away.
Wow.
That is quite the statement,
That is,
sir.
Exactly.
Wow, that took me back. Well,
exactly.
It makes sense, though, because it's going to be a phenomenal week. We are starting Monday, the 16th, here on the Living Forest, kicking off with a Kenobi character spotlight in canon. We'll be going over some of Obi-Wan's best moments in canon, some of the best books in canon that are all about him. Wednesday on the Cosmic Force, Emma and those folks are going through a lovely Obi-Wan Kenobi comic called, Emma?
From the Journals of Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's really awesome. It's from the Star Wars 2015 series, if you don't recognize the name.
Yes. Some amazing interludes were done with some amazing Mike Mayhew art on that. Isn't that right?
I
Can you
believe
do those?
so. Yeah,
Yeah.
it sounds familiar.
It's astonishingly good stuff. Thursday, speaking of astonishingly good stuff, Thursday on Legends Look Back, the crew is doing a roundtable on Kenobi by John Jackson Miller that, Emma, you're going to be on as well. Isn't that correct?
I believe so. And your girl got to start the book. Let me tell you something.
You are busy.
Is that a
Lord.
first time read through?
Yes, it is.
Oh,
Which is
heck
why
yes.
I desperately wanted to be on the show because, I definitely want to, share my thoughts on it. I'm really excited. I got the audiobook so I can kind of, listen to it faster. College has taught me how to listen to things quickly. So, and then I'll follow along. So, I'm really looking forward to it. I've only heard good things.
Yeah.
Audiobook is
it's
a great
really
experience of that one for sure.
Yes. And that'll be Thursday. Friday night, Wes, I know the game nights have been tumultuous. We've been trying to pull things up. Where are we at as far as emulators, as far as events? What are we thinking? What are we feeling?
So I checked into the emulators, and an emulator is a program you can put on your computer where you can run old Xbox or PlayStation, Nintendo, whatever. It just runs as the console on your computer, and then you can load games onto it. So I checked on that, and there's not one emulator that works well with Obi-Wan, the Star Wars game on the original
really?
Xbox.
Ooh.
There's not
That
one.
sucks.
It will pull up and it'll display like the start menu, but the gameplay you can't play it. It's all, and the coding isn't correct. That's why me and Eric need to learn how to do that so we can get new jobs.
That's right.
But so I do have an Xbox. I actually have 2 of them, original Xboxes. They're at my duck lease,
Wow.
about
Look
2
at you,
hours
man,
away.
Mr. Big money.
That's right.
But your duck, the place you lease to a duck?
Correct. But so I have to go pick that up. But I did get this in today. So I have the game,
Oh,
Star Wars Obi-Wan. I have it.
Hello.
I don't know if it works, but I will know this week if it works. And then I also, just sitting here with this brand new game, was like, how am I going to play it? And I don't have RCA cables that connect to my computer. I need HDMI. So I had to order an HDMI cable for the old Xbox to connect to it. So hopefully this all works out correctly. I've done it with the mini SNES or the SNES Mini, and it's hooked up to the computer just fine. So God willing, we're going to get Obi-Wan on Friday night at 7 o'clock for the continuation of Kenobi Week.
That would be spectacular.
Wes
That would mean-
Jenkins, Chief Technology Officer, UTD, everyone.
It's gonna work.
Dude, that game remains the only game I ever won in a free throw shooting contest on the elementary school basketball court. I kid you not.
Wow.
Oddly
So I'm
specific.
just gonna leave it there.
Yeah.
It was a core memory. And then, of course, Saturday at the Star Wars Archives, Trev and Jose are giving us the Ben years. They're going deep, deep. And if you listen to that show, you know it is very deep on the history of good old Ben the Hermit Kenobi. So all kinds of stuff coming up next week, starting May 16th to celebrate the man, the myth, the legend, Obi-Wan Kenobi, a week ahead of his release. Because, y'all, we're less than 3 weeks away from the Obi-Wan show.
Insane.
I'm just going to keep
Dude.
saying that out loud because it doesn't feel real.
Like
I know.
Obi-Wan
We
on
have-
top of being together with everybody, on top of celebration, on top of everybody's feet hurting because we all went to Disney the day before. On
Yeah.
top, I mean,
There's
it's
some
so much.
other big stuff happening like outside of Star Wars that week too. Like Stranger Things opens
Yep.
Yeah.
that same day as Kenobi does, and there's some other major TV
Yep.
show I think it comes out that time too. I don't know what it is. off the
Miss
top of my head.
Marvel, or is that a little later?
No, it's a little later, but there's
Later.
something.
Something else is in there.
There's
I
just
can't keep it all
many
straight.
things.
There's so much stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
Insane, dude. Insane.
Yeah, so
Give me a good
excited.
week.
But yes.
Yeah, remember when this was announced and we were like, "There's no way this is gonna happen," and like, that was,
Oh yeah, the Obi-Wan show. Sure.
yeah, we're like, okay, yeah, it'll get canceled. Okay.
Cannot wait. Cannot wait. All that's coming to you next week. And of course, it's all made possible by our wonderful folks in our Patreon community. And we want to thank our newest patron, David Bruda, who became an annual patron this past week. Thank you so much. We hope you're enjoying all the extra content we have over there. All of our commentaries. Revenge of the Sith is up. Rogue One is up. Attack of the Clones is up. Phantom Menace is up. And our next Patreon goal is our Infinity's UTD Network Multiverse of Madness. Anyone? Event where we're all going to switch shows. And of course, the UTD documentary is being, the Living Force UTD documentary, I should say, is being edited as we speak. We're going over actual edits of it this week. And that is our $1,000 goal. I'm not going to say anything else about it. You want to see it. You want to see it. That's what I'll say.
I have a small
Dave's
little
in
ad
the
to
chat.
Patreon.
What's up, dude?
Oh, I have a small little ad to Patreon. We don't get to do this very often, but I've been wanting to talk a little more about what we spend the money on and stuff, like because people ask sometimes, like, and we do big purchases and stuff, like, you know, we've said last week and a couple weeks before that, like, you know, we've paid all this money for Star Wars Celebration. We've spent like almost $6,000 I think on Star Wars Celebration, and that is like hugely thanks to our patrons. And I can't wait to show pictures of our booth and what that's going to be. We're going to talk about that a little bit later. But last week when I was on the Cosmic Force, like Emma was saying, we had some major technology issues, and with Jacob taking a bit of a leave of absence from producing that show, we needed a quick, fast technology upgrade. Wes and I got together and we're like, listen, man, let's just get Emma a gaming laptop. And we're like, we have the money to do that. And that is incredible to be able to say, like, thank you to our patrons for letting us be able to make rapid decisions like that. Because, like, if we were having to save up, you know, for several months or weeks to be able to afford an object like that, you know, it makes it hard to continue to produce the content that we do. So special thank you specifically to our patrons for helping us be able to afford a new piece of equipment to help us produce some of our live shows, which we were able to make an easy decision and just make that purchase, which is really incredible. So thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah.
Seriously.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. You guys are saving me so much hours of trying to figure out what the heck
Yeah.
is the problem.
No.
And yeah, super, super appreciate every single
Yeah.
one of you.
Yeah, and we try to be as, like, obviously transparent as we can with you all. And you're right, Corey, we don't talk about it too much, but, like, we every single one of us here is a pure volunteer, and every cent that we get from any kind of Patreon, any kind of ad, is all to make these products best for you, because we love that you like watching, and we love that you love consuming what we have. We love that the site makes you happy, the videos, the podcasts. So thank you all. And again, tune into the Cosmic Force next week to see, oh my God, it's so smooth now. And if you want to join our Patreon community, you can head over to patreon.com/utini and help us, I don't know, get a little more swag to give y'all a celebration. So very excited for that. Wes, let's talk about Celebration in the Star Wars Weekly Roundup.
It's the Star Wars Weekly Roundup.
All right, y'all. Celebration is just over 2 weeks away, and the info keeps coming in. And the Slack channels are going crazy at UTini because we now have a booth number. That's right. All the booths and exhibitors got announced for UTini. Or no, for all Celebration, just for us. Sorry, just for UTini. All of our booths got announced that we have. We have a single booth. It will not cost us $2,800 to rent it, despite some incorrect emails that we got. But we do have a number. It is booth 2686. So if you look at the convention map, we're by
2686.
Lego. We're by Lego, guys. Oh, is it 2187?
Yeah.
Stephanie, I wish we were 2187.
Oh, that's so cool.
Man.
That would be rich. Yeah, we're in the fan area. They also sent us a really sweet map, which I'm probably not allowed to show. So I'm actually not
I do
going to
not
show
believe
that.
we
They
are.
didn't give us
about
any
to pull it
instructions
up.
about the
I
map.
know
but
you were, so
don't
let's
don't
not
pull the
yet.
map up. I don't know if that's we're allowed to show that, but they sent us this really sweet map of the whole show floor. And first of all, guys, it's enormous. It looks so much bigger than Chicago,
Comfy
which
shoes.
is crazy because
Get
the
comfy
Chicago
shoes.
Yeah, seriously, the Chicago Event Center is bigger, I think, than Anaheim is. So I don't know how maybe it's just the map, but it looks insane. We had to zoom really far in, like 300%, just to be able to see the little square in which we exist on. It's crazy. And we're in a good spot, I think. We're in the fan area, like kind of next to some of the conventions and next to Lego. Like,
We got
it's
a
gonna be
corner
pretty
piece,
bumpin'.
Corey. We got a
Corner piece.
Yeah,
Corner spot, man.
Get some spillover room if y'all want to
Best
come hang
one.
Really
out.
exciting. We were having to review like the rules and how the exhibitor works, how pack in and move out goes. Like this feels so real suddenly,
Yep.
which is insane because we've been really. This has been like when I started UTini, this was like a lifelong achievement. If we make it to Celebration, I will feel like I made it. And man, I'm just getting more and more giddy the closer we get. Like this is nuts. We get to get there early. We get to see the stuff where nobody else does. Like it feels so. I'm so freaking honored. Like I'm gonna it's gonna be really hard to like stay humble but like it just feels like such a huge honor to even be in the same category as like some of these big organizations. So
Yeah.
you know,
I mean, like the Lego booth is right behind us. Like, how insane is that? That's
I'm
insane.
real nervous, Emma. I'm real nervous about
Same,
that.
Eric. This is horrible. Actually,
We're not going to go well.
You just got to
actually,
make
our
good
friend
context.
Jacob, he took the map and he wrote out where all the places you can spend money are. They put us right in the middle of all the places where you spend money. Her Universe, Hasbro,
Sure did.
Funko, Box Lunch.
Mhm.
It is going to be an issue, let me tell you.
it is. It is. The good news is they also announced today that Lego is one of the big exhibitors that you have to like use reservation and have to win a lottery to even get
Yep,
access to the
virtual
exclusive.
panels.
Oh,
So
no.
you know,
I wonder if they'll
That's
have
a good
mystery
thing.
boxes there.
Hope not, Wes.
Wes, you in the mystery box, dude.
Tell you what, so Emma is actually putting together our panels, our booth schedule. 'Cause we have a lot of folks from Utini that are coming there, and some of us will be going around like doing panels and like tweeting out media coverage and taking video, and other folks will be at the booth at different times. So if you want to come say hi, there will always be a Utini member there. We hope to say hi. Like if you get some swag at those booths, swing on by, show us what you got. It'd be super
Get free
fun.
stuff.
Come hang out, get some free stuff, get some bookmarks, get some stickers. We're very excited to see you. 2686, and the panel's on Saturday morning at 10:30 a.m. on the fan stage. Can't wait. Now, another thing we can't wait for is something that might have slightly higher production value than our panel, and it's the Obi-Wan Kenobi TV show. Because, y'all, we got a new official trailer on May the 4th. We could not escape him, as Reva would say. I just want to go around real quick, y'all. What were favorite parts of this trailer? Charles, I know I keep Coney for Obi-Wan stuff, but this is what you got. This is your year, bro. Like, what was this like to watch this full trailer, and what did you love that we didn't see before?
Okay. Well, first, let me just say that I was at work when this dropped, and I mean, you know, it was relatively early in the morning, and when you're in the hospital, when you're working in the hospital, the morning's a very busy time. That's when you sit around a table and you all kind of like talk about what you're going to do for every patient in detail. I just left as soon as I saw that this thing came out. I just left. I found a secluded area. I had my phone and I just watched it for the first time, and I mean, literally goosebumps, every inch of me, goosebumps. And I think if I had to choose a couple of things that really excited me, one, probably the most exciting thing for me, that final shot of Ewan just in the classic Obi-Wan robes is what it looks like.
Yeah,
right?
I think so.
Yeah.
And you hear that Vader breath come in.
Yeah,
I mean,
dude.
holy smokes. It is
literal chills, dude.
yeah, and it's tangible, the type of conflict that we're going to see between Vader and Obi-Wan again. And I know it's real because we're seeing more and more footage every time, and it still doesn't feel real.
Yeah.
That was amazing. And it might be like creative use of audio, right? Like maybe it's not the Vader shot, but like the composition, you're right, was so beautiful. The skill with which they lit it, everything, you're right. Okay, yeah, Justin in the chat. I'm gonna say that my favorite part was also Owen Lars being like, "Oh, like you trained his father."
I mean, like,
Harsh.
the greatest roast. Oh my god.
Literal.
He must
roast.
be trained.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean like the guy that almost died?
Just one bad experience, and that goes all out on Obi-Wan. Come on.
You know?
Yeah,
you know
the
what's
next line is
crazy?
actually Ewan saying, "It was one time."
You know what's crazy too, though, is when the first like teaser trailer came out, we talked a lot about that really dark shot where it looked like someone was shooting at the main character in the foreground.
Oh,
But
yeah.
he was holding a blaster, and we were like, "Who is that? Like he's using a blaster. It's probably not Obi-Wan." No, we saw nothing but like hand-to-hand combat and blaster
Yeah,
use
dude.
in
Yeah.
this
I
trailer.
know.
from
Flipped a
Obi-Wan.
guy over his shoulder and then spun around and did like a freaking sniper shot. I'm
Yeah,
like,
it's
So
incredible.
Obi-Wan.
badass.
Committed to not using the lightsaber, that's for sure.
He's committed to not being civilized.
That's
Damn
right.
straight. Cannot wait
I'm
for
excited,
it.
man. I
Yeah.
can't believe. Listen, the only thing I want to say is I cannot believe that we are this far after episode 4, and we are still creating more details and connective tissue to explain tiny little details in the original Star Wars film from 1976. That is
45 years.
insane.
45 years
insane
later.
to me. Like one of the first scenes, like the only thing that Owen Lars had to say was like, "Oh, that old wizard, like he's nothing to be concerned about," you know, like.
Yep.
Like that's insane, dude.
That
It's
actor
insane.
made
We're gonna
like
fill in.
$84. He was like, "All right, great, done forever." Who cares?
Exactly. Insane.
And they're just pulling these characters from animated, like the fifth brother. I'm not sure
Yep.
that the third sister is in the animated.
So yeah, she's new, but we did get confirmation that she is the third sister now.
Okay,
You
right.
know.
So that's amazing. We're starting to pull those animated characters to
And,
live
and
action.
video games.
Exactly.
And video games
yeah.
too. It looks like maybe Fortress Inquisitorius from Jedi Fallen Order, maybe.
Yeah.
Yep. The Purge
Yeah.
Troopers, we saw those guys from Fallen Order as
That's
well.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
Grand
Oh.
Inquisitor looks better too. You know, I'll
Yes.
say it. I'll say he looks better.
I
A lot of
think the
goofy.
original
Longer.
issue was like the lighting. I think
Yeah.
honestly. Yeah.
They use CG to elongate his head. Now he looks better. I think that's what the answer is.
He did need a longer head. He did need a longer head.
A little longer head. Longer head.
yeah.
Just put him in
cannot
the
wait.
trash compactor a little bit. You know.
You could say you could say that his head is growing on me. You know what I mean?
Thank you. I'll give you that one, Corey. That was pretty good.
Well,
Oh,
if
man.
somehow you're still interested in that show after Corey's description right there, yeah, fun fact, Obi-Wan comes out, you know when it's coming out. I'm not going to tell you. You listen to a Star Wars podcast. You know it's coming out soon. But I will say, if you followed along with the toys of Star Wars, as a lot of us do, you remember that Boba Fett had Boba Fett Fridays, which totally had never disappointing, always great merchandise that came out.
That's right.
Every week that I'm sorry, that's not fair. But every week that Book of Boba Fett came out, they promised cool stuff. We never got a Chrysanthemum Funko, but they did say that Obi-Wan Wednesdays, which sound a lot like Utini Tuesdays, and we're gonna find that contract. Obi-Wan Wednesdays are starting up on May 25th with exclusive merch drops for the Obi-Wan show. They do already mention Funko and Lego and things like that. So if y'all are interested, like some of us on this show, that might be a Slack channel that's all about toys. Get ready every Wednesday. Emma, what are you stoked for? What do you want?
Oh gosh, My Kingdom for a Reva Funko Pop. That's all I want out of this. If that's the only thing we get, I will be happy.
I want a Lego Fortress Inquisitorius.
Oh, dude. Okay,
Holy
it would be
crap.
like-
I will
like-
take that
It's
as well.
quite the want, my dude.
I know, but like, can you imagine? Like, it's just
Even
like
if it's
so-
in micro scale, you know what I mean? Like built
Yeah.
from just studs.
Last
I'll
week
take it.
on the Cosmic Force Aftermath, I was kind of looking through the Star Wars like merchandise you get. They took a lot of discounts for on Amazon. So I was going through those pictures, and there was T-shirts and figures, and then there were Lego sets. What didn't get a discount? But good lord, there was the Millennium Falcon, there was the
Yep.
AT-AT, and then there was one of the Galactic Battle Cruiser or something. Like $800, man. Like
It's ridiculous.
That is my
told you.
dream someday.
Wow.
I told you somewhere that the friggin' unopened Legos like have exceeded the S&P 500 in the last 20 years in investment growth.
I believe it.
Corey,
Yeah.
it's only good if you don't open them.
I know it's only
That's
good if
the
you don't open, which
problem.
kind of defeats the purpose. But yeah, that's
Yeah.
the But you guys know I'm not a big collector, but Lego is the one thing that I really have trouble saying no to because it's so expensive, but they're so fun to build and they're just hard to display. And I don't know where I would put them.
They're super
buy 'em
nostalgic too.
I'll buy them, build them, and sell them. That's a good.
There you
thing
go.
to do.
Glue them together. No, it's the best times of day. I built another Lego set this weekend. It was a video game one, so I won't plug it on the show. But it was great. And I will manifest though. If anyone at Celebration has the solo Kessel Run Millennium Falcon unopened that they want to like give to your favorite podcaster,
Don't say that. Sell it to him at market value.
One of the most fun builds ever. The Kessel Run Falcon specifically, so fun.
Can't wait. All right.
Add
Aside
5%.
from merch, though.
All right.
Aside from merch, we did have two more fun things we want to get to before we talk about some Queen's Hope. I want to give a congratulations to Star Wars and Lucasfilm and the crew of Ahsoka, because the live-action show started filming today, and look at this glorious director's chair with the unmistakable cowboy hat.
What is this time in which we live in? Holy crap. It feels not real. Like, are we asleep? Is this a dream? Yeah. Like, how can we be getting all of these shows? Like, surely they've all been canceled, right? Surely it was too optimistic to announce 10 live-action shows, Surely. No. It's actually happening. There's Dave Filoni's hat to prove it.
I want to go back there and fiddle around with those computers. I mean, it looks super. It looks super
Obi-Wan.
You think they got a RCA to HDMI connector in there, Wes?
No, absolutely not. They have something that hasn't been put out for the retail market yet.
That's right. Exactly.
Yeah. But those of you that are listening later, of course, on the Star Wars official Twitter and Instagram today, they put up the picture. It's the classic director's chair, the wooden guy, and then the Ahsoka logo emblazoned on the back of it. And it is just that moment of like, my goodness. I thought, if we're lucky, maybe 10 years down the line, like we'll get Ahsoka something. But I also believe today was Rosario Dawson, who plays Ahsoka. I believe either yesterday or today was legit her birthday.
Wow.
What a great way to spend it starring as Ahsoka. And if you haven't watched the behind the scenes of the Book of Boba Fett Disney Gallery that dropped on May the 4th, there's some great stuff there of her losing her absolute mind, seeing Mark Hamill.
Yeah.
And it really makes you makes the heart really happy.
Yeah.
You can tell that she's just as much of a fan as we are. That's always my favorite thing, is when you can tell the actors and actresses just love the thing that they're acting in just as much as the fans do, because then it's in good hands.
Yeah. So day one, congrats on that team. Can't wait to see the show. But before that show comes, we're going to get many, many, many books, including Brotherhood tomorrow, most obviously. But the next pre-order, Shadow of the Sith, just got a new excerpt today on IO9, and it was a great excerpt. I think Adam Christopher has an amazing writing style. If you haven't read the excerpt, go for it. If you don't want spoilers, of course. But most importantly, we got an image of the Sith foe that we saw, I believe, on the cover, but it's a little more detailed. And oh my God, I love a good character design, guys. Look at this terrifying beast.
It's freaky.
It looks so scary.
Oh my God.
I know. I love it.
It's
Are
like
these
something out of a nightmare?
Are
these
Kyber?
Kyber? Yeah. Nice. There you go. Are these Kyber crystals? It looks like
They look like Kyber crystals, and from what we know of it, IO9 did say that obviously, we do not know the identity of this new enemy just yet, but quote, they said, we don't know for sure, but IO9 can confirm that if you've been reading the canon Star Wars novels, the true identity of this masked figure will be a familiar face to you. And there has been speculation, I know, in Discord and even within our Slack on Twitter. There, like, some people found characters from the interludes of Aftermath that could work on it. But I'm very excited. I always love a mask and a red lightsaber. I mean, come on, it's a tried and true formula. It always works.
There's a lot of speculation to be had, but let's be real, it's Jar Jar Binks.
We're finally getting it.
You
can tell with the nails.
He's canonized as a Sith.
Muted, Corey.
Can't hear what you're saying, Corey.
I'm sure it's great, though.
Of course I'm muted. I know. Of course. I took my drink, so I had to mute myself. I do this every episode, I feel like. I had a med student ask me this week if how I felt about Jar Jar Binks being a Sith Lord. And I was like, get out of here, man. Get out of here.
Oh, JG in the chat. Misa, come back to ignite the red.
That's right. But if you want to know more, obviously, head over to IO9 and Gizmodo. They have that excerpt up for now. It's an incredible look at the writing style and this nice little... I'm not going to say anymore. Some people don't like to know anything about excerpts. Go check it out if you like. Most importantly, though, get that pre-order in because this book comes out on June 28th. We got a while. But not really for most books, just for Star Wars. Like, oh, we got a month and a half. Like, no, that's not a lot of time. Shadows comes out, and then Padawan by Kirsten White comes out the next month, July 26th. Head over to the new release calendar on utini.com. Get those pre-orders in. Get Sithy with it. Get some Padawans in your life. Get Sithy with it. What do you think about that? What do we feel?
That just came out, bro. I don't like that one bit.
I don't feel very at all. I don't feel at all for it.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I feel bad about that. But instead of going to an ad this week, I'm feeling feisty. I'm feeling energized. Let's jump right into the Roundtable Part 2. Everyone, if you've not read Queen's Hope yet, one, bravo for clicking on this episode and just trusting us. We like it. But I would stop now, read the book. From here on out, we got full spoilers. If you didn't check out Part 1, go back to last week. Listen to what we chatted about. We had a bunch of character talks about Padme and Sabe and a bunch of great stuff there. But without further ado, unlike the Miami Heat, I ain't going to miss right now as I throw it over to Charles. I'm sorry, I'm done now. That's my last one.
That was the last one. Huh? That's right, guys. It's time to talk about Thor. I mean, Padme. Definitely Padme. And we're going to start with some...
Charles, you can't do that to me without warning me.
Flashback to that photo. We're gonna go straight to overarching questions. And the first thing I want to know, just very broadly, is how did the Queen's Trilogy overall change your view of Padme? What is the biggest takeaway that you have about the character of Padme?
She ranks above Leia for me right now.
Whoa.
I think that's...
Wow.
I don't know if that's just the trilogy. I don't know if that's just the last couple of years, but for me personally, and don't hear what I'm not saying. Leia Organa is a Queen General elite legend. Let's be clear here. I feel like I'm like Stephen A. Smith. Like, let me be clear.
Just gonna say.
That's for 8 of you. But this trilogy, being inside Padme's head in these and listening to like every piece of Padme content we've gotten in the last couple of years has really just affected me in a very personal way. I love how vulnerable she is. I love now seeing her expanded cast and how much she relied on her friends. I now understand so much more of the tension that she held, trying to keep all the parts of her life kind of going, and to see how hard she fought to do things that didn't work out. And I think that's a very important thing that we don't talk about a lot in life, is that a lot of times things don't work out. And that does not mean you didn't try your hardest and you weren't worthy of the task. I think that seeing her go toe-to-toe with Palpatine so many times in these books, seeing her go toe-to-toe with every senator, even though she's younger, even though she's trying to be more passionate rather than tactile, like, I don't know. She's just risen just such a high level of esteem for me, and I don't think that would have happened if I hadn't picked up Queen Shadow years ago.
She is a very strong female character, especially for the prequels, but she, like, whenever there was a conflict, she never went with the flow. She always had her own ideas. And that was a part of the movies, but essentially in the books, she always had her own ideas of what needs to be done and what she can to help the problem. She will not just say, be like a yes man or a yes woman to go along with what is being put down in the Senate or what kind of problems are being explored. She has her own ideas and has other people that agree with her. So she's a very strong female character that I appreciated, that you can get behind, and not just a background character, somebody that you'd want to read more books about. Hopefully there's something else after the Queen's Trilogy.
Yes.
Yeah, I think to me, like, I think that she puts everything else above herself, no matter how much she is struggling. And I think we see that the most in this book. Like, it doesn't matter if she really feels like she needs some time to herself, or, whatever the case might be. In this book, maybe, she feels like she needs some more time with Anakin and stuff. None of that matters to her. All that matters to her is the cause. And I think that we definitely see that selflessness come out quite a bit in this book, even though we already knew it was there. I didn't think that it was like to this level. She was keeping secrets from, from Sabe. I honestly thought that she would have like told Sabe that, and it was honestly quite shocking to me that she didn't. And so I think that told me the most about her, I think, out of any of these books, that she would keep such a secret from Sabe.
She went to save Queen Jamilia's sister before her wedding night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Not
Padme.
knowing if that would take
Yeah.
longer than a day.
Exactly. Yeah.
It
I'm
could have
sure I'll
been
be back.
like a battle for weeks. We just have
And
to
then didn't tell
postpone.
Anakin where she was going.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, she'll be fine. Yeah. I haven't seen her in 10 years, but how long could it take? A day? Like, what could a banana cost? $10? Like, it's.
I think I pretty much agree with everything everybody's already said. I mean, as far as takeaways from the trilogy and stuff, I think the biggest thing for me has been like actually a little less about Padme and more about all the background characters has been really cool. Like Padme was like I feel like she's already a well-established, even before this trilogy, she's a well-established female character, but like we got a ton of really cool like female characters in the background of this, like really strong women kind of all throughout. Like all the handmaidens are like very individually cool and like have a lot of like strength and power and like agency, and I really like that. I like how many really great like female characters we got all through the trilogy. Was really awesome. Like we've seen all over the internet and in our community and stuff, like so many women have really loved these books, and like how like we're always talking about the more inclusive Star Wars books can be, the more people are going to read them, and the more people that read them, the more cool projects we get. So like, I want everybody to feel like they can get something out of Star Wars and see themselves in it. And like, if this can introduce, some little girl to Star Wars, if this is the first one that she picked up because she saw a character that reminded her of herself on there, then, yeah, bring it on, man. Bring it on. So yeah, it was great.
You can judge a book by its cover sometimes in that way, and I think that's like one of the real cool things, like these covers, like why I have them next to me, like, is that they are all so striking in that way that Padme does literally encompass all three of these women that are on the cover, even though they're all her, they're all different versions of her.
That's true.
And I think that in the 20 years this year since Attack of the Clones, we have seen how hard that was, and even though we only got a couple hours with her on screen, gosh, it's expanded.
Yeah, for
Right.
sure.
Thank goodness for that too.
Yeah.
And this book did talk about a lot of other people besides Padme. And so, Corey, I'm glad that you brought that up, because it also wasn't just the handmaidens as a group. This book made a point to have these interludes, essentially, about various very strong women throughout the Star Wars timeline. So, it started out with Shmi, but we also got something about Beru, which I was not expecting, honestly. Bria Organa was one of them. What did y'all kind of think about those moments, and how did they serve the overall story? Like, why were those moments that didn't exactly tie into the larger story of this trilogy, why were they important to include?
Well, I think that, like, honestly, those women are so influential in Padme's life, whether she knew it or not, right? Like, she's never, I don't think that she's ever met Bria, or at least not in the context that we know her, right? But she ends up raising her daughter. And honestly, the Shmi one, the one that started off the book, I remember, I opened up the book and I opened up, I read it, started crying. And then I opened up a message to Eric saying, Eric, this is amazing. This is like the best thing I've ever read. And I can't stop crying. It is just so good. Like, because all of these characters, we don't see a whole lot of them, like, in any media whatsoever, period, end of story. But to get like a couple pages of just pure emotional, just goodness is, I think it's so important. Beru's had an impact on her. We know that she and Owen, their relationship had an impact on how Anakin sees relationships. Obviously, Shmi was Anakin's mother, and that's what made Padme feel so passionate about, the slavery issue in the galaxy. And they all hit so hard. And I think I teared up at all of them, but was like heavy crying at at the Shmi one for sure. They're just they're so well written. It reminds me of some of Claudia Gray's interludes. Like they just hit you like smack in the face, and it's so good, but it hurts so much.
Yeah, I think I agree with you, and I also with what Justin just said in the chat. I do believe so. Yeah, she did meet Bria when they went to Alderaan, I think in Shadow maybe, but it was also these were my favorite parts of the book, and I think both for good and for rough, because like the majority of the book were not these, which was fine, but these were written so well and started the book that I'm like, oh my god, like they were so excellent that I almost kind of wish there were more of them, because they were so interesting and so intriguing, and they were written in such a different sort of voice. And you're spot on, Emma, I think, about like how they affected Padme's life and sculpted her in that way. And it really kind of shows how Shmi, Beru, Bria, like, I don't think it's an accident that we're talking about this like right around Mother's Day as well. It was just this week, like how they literally sculpted the galaxy as a whole. And I think these interludes were so interesting to kind of elevate them even further, to be like, how many of us have known a woman like this that we meet once or does a thing here, but just that moment kind of shapes whoever you are. And then of course with Beru, the addition of the White Suns and that evolution kind of changes a lot of things retroactively. But I really thought they were one of the clearly something E.K. Johnston really loved to write and put a lot of thought behind, and based on just the pure craft of how they were written.
And one thing we did learn in the interlude with Brea Organa was that Bail took Brea's last name. I don't know.
That's right.
That
I
was,
forgot about that. Yeah.
That's been around, yeah.
So, it has been around. Okay, so that's the first time that I have read that.
But yeah.
Yeah, so
I
I thought
talked about it in a long time.
Yeah, that's something that's not normally done. I appreciate that was been put into the book. So
Bail is an icon.
Yes.
He's a feminist hero. Let's be clear. Make that button. Bail Organa, feminist icon. I will wear it.
Eric, that's a tattoo you're gonna get at Celebration.
Oh yes,
excellent.
We'll sign you up for
Very
it.
good point.
Yeah, no, there was. I will say I like how the interludes, they talked about the character without saying the name until the very end, right? So like you're like, okay, who's this about to be about? And you would context
really
clues
interesting.
kind of build up to knowing who it was, and we all knew who it was before we got to that last line, but then it was such a payoff to get that last line and kind of confirm who it was. And Eric, you mentioned, it came out around Mother's Day, etc. I want to point out the Shmi one too, not just because it was the start of the book and not just because it was very touching, but this made me realize something. I've always thought Anakin was good at all these things that he's good at: pod racing, whatever, fighting, flying, using the Force, all these things, because he's the chosen one. And we find that actually his usefulness to Watto, right? His tech abilities, like his ability to build things like C-3PO, that actually came from Shmi. Had nothing to do with the fact that he was the chosen one. Like, she was the one that was actually an expert in that. And we see that kind of carried forward through Anakin's story. So that was pretty touching, I think.
Yeah, I love that.
No question.
Sure. That was some of my favorite parts of the whole book, honestly. It's those little throw-ins like that.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of really great explanations. There's some popular Shmi, like, not really, it's like a fan want, I guess, like manifestation, I guess.
There we go.
It's like a fan manifestation. I can't remember what it is. Like, there's a popular story that everybody always wants about Shmi, and I think the biggest story is just like, I think just about how Anakin came to be and all that kind of stuff. Like, such an interesting character that is heavily featured in films that we really don't know that much about. And I think some of that was like by design, I guess, but now it's been a long time since that movie was created and that character was created. Now we have the ability to do that sort of stuff in the expanded universe stuff. So I love to see the books like this, like, give us small, minor explorations of these characters, even if it's not like the big story that everybody wants. You know what I mean? Like, it's cool to. This is how they judge like what would be a good story. Is like you put little touch points like this in there. So.
And also, I am very much team interlude. Every author going forward, if you're listening, because you know who started in interludes? Cobb Vanth. Remember those?
That's true.
Aftermath interludes?
That's
like,
true, man.
So many times, if you're like, I don't know, maybe I'll just put this little nugget in here. And you never know. You never know where they can go. And like, they can be so impactful. So Hey,
Maybe
if you're
Timothy
wondering how do I
Oliphant,
bring,
but-
yeah, how do I put these chapters together? You don't need to make something up in another planet and just throw it in the book. I don't care. I'll read it.
Yeah. They were really incredible. There was a lot of representation in this book though for some characters that we probably weren't expecting to see. And one in particular that really stood out, and there was a lot of discourse about, I think, in the fandom, was the trans female clone in this novel named Sister. So I'm curious. I mean, for obvious reasons, why was this important to feature in this novel? But why do you think E.K. Johnston chose to do this with a clone specifically?
I love this inclusion so much because it made so much sense to me. Because the clone troopers, they show their individuality in so many different ways, like with their hairstyles and the way that they, decorate their armor and stuff like that. They give themselves names. And it only makes sense to me that they would have different gender identities and things like that. And it honestly, like, it just made sense. It felt natural. It felt like something you would see in, the Clone Wars or the Bad Batch. Like it makes sense. It's another way to, show individuality, and the fact that the clones all accepted her, that was like really cool to see. And yeah, I thought it was just amazing.
I just found a great quote that just sums up what you just said, Emma. And it says, I was afraid. Before I left Camino, we don't really know what happens to unusual clones, but my brothers never let me doubt. I wasn't sure if the Jedi would understand. But the Jedi are all about transcending things. I don't think we can complain if you've transcended gender. Transcended gender? We'll work on it, but I like where it's heading. That's Sister talking to Anakin Skywalker. Super good quote.
Anakin gets it.
Yeah.
Like and I think that was a cool thing about writing it too, was that it was addressed. It wasn't a problem. And I think that's like, I always say, right, what do I like authors write for the world in which they are living and some of that. And like, I think it's no secret that this is a very important issue in the world we're living in right now. Especially a lot of writers are like, the trans community is really underrepresented in a lot of places and is still facing like a lot of hardships. Even within the LGBTQ community, it is still sometimes decently hard for trans folks to find an amount of representation and love and acceptance. And I think this is a excellent way of throwing this character in. And I love that it's within this book that has so many queer characters, has so much love. And I think having a character like Anakin be like, oh yeah, awesome, whatever, you're great. Moving on, like, Anakin Skywalker did it too. It's not just because it's Padme, it's not just because it's Naboo. Nope, it's wartime, it's the Clone Wars, which y'all love, and it's Anakin. And I'm like, that's such a key thing to be like, no,
the strong most representation.
Yeah. The most Star Wars-y character of Star Wars, Anakin Skywalker. I love that.
Yeah. Do you think, I know this might be a stretch, do you think there's any sort of connection to Omega or the Bad Batch? Because we learned that she's technically a clone too, right?
Yeah.
Maybe yeah.
I don't know.
Not sure.
I mean, I want to say no, because like we're sort of meant to understand that Omega is just a female clone. I feel like that's what we're supposed to understand. So
I think
don't
that's
know.
what we get, and there's a difference. Yeah.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say a similarity, but it's like a parallel, right? There's got to be a parallel with there's different clones alongside all of the, millions that were bought and paid for, which is kind of weird to say. But, yeah.
It's kind of like how lately some folks would be like, man, there's a lot more trans kids than there used to be. It's like, well, 50 years ago there were a lot more left-handers than there used to be too. It's not that this has become more common. It's just that now we don't hit them with sticks essentially and like demonize it.
It's not suppressed.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly. Suppressed. That's the word. Yeah.
I mean, I think like I think as much as we would, hope for, maybe some sort of connection or even just to see her in like the Bad Batch or something, that'd be really cool.
Yeah.
I don't think Disney is, there yet, which is unfortunate. But that's why we have these books, at the very least, until we get to that point. That's why we have that representation in these books.
And because she's a clone, she's a much better shot than the than the stormtroopers from the original trilogy.
Yes. Not even close. Not even close. Love it.
Well, aside from that awesome moment, there was a relatively healthy amount, I think, of sort of thinly veiled social commentary, shall we say. So regardless of your thoughts on, legalizing spice, for example, which came up in this book, did those moments ever take you out of the book?
A little bit, I will say. Like it's no surprise to anyone that's ever met me or listened to me on this. Like I'm pretty decently lefty, both in my natural gifts and also in my thoughts.
I'm pretty sure that's an understatement, Eric. I'm pretty sure you have described yourself on the show as the token liberal of the Utini team.
That as well. That as well.
I mean, how could you not be, though? To be honest, though, I mean, you're from, like, you've done the theater thing that is a very much like ingrained in liberal stuff, for good reason too. I mean, a lot of
Came from a small
unrepresented
place,
people participated in that community, so I
learned a
get
lot.
that 100%.
So I'm like politically, all the stuff that was like legalizing spice, all that stuff. Like I am very much aligned with. That being said, the way it was handled in this book, it did take me out now and then, because I think that just for the pure ways that it came up, it did seem slightly inorganic, unlike the spice itself, which I'm sure was very organic.
The pure stuff gets a better price on the street.
Because I have actually quite liked, like the spice in Star Wars is always interesting because George Lucas made a universe for kids full of drug lords and kingpins, and we just kind of got to roll with it. Like, there's a hookah den in Return of the Jedi, and everyone's getting high and drunk, and then there's a lightsaber fight. Like, this is what the world is.
It's also hilarious that spice, which is like the hardcore drugs, is something that we can find in our kitchen, but cigarettes were death sticks like this.
Like, I haven't had medicinal cocaine in my life, you know what I mean? So I think that like that particular thing, just the handling of it, I wasn't the most delicate and organic thing. To answer your question, Charles.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Yeah. I would agree with that too. And I follow EK Johnston on Twitter and stuff, and she's she gets out there, man. Like, she really gets out there. She can be a little in your face sometimes, and if that is the way that you express your belief system, then so be it, I guess. But
Bada bing.
that makes it's not my style either, and it makes it kind of hard. It makes it hard for me to not separate author from content sometimes, like when I know that Johnston's as outspoken as she is, which is fine. But yeah, I think when I know that about the author, like reading the page, it's like, it feels like some of the words feel like they're happening in the Star Wars universe, and you're just in your mind's eye and you're there, right? But other words feel like, okay, this is E.K. Johnston. You know what I mean? Like It feels like I'm reading. I see the author's face reading me this passage rather than I see the pages happening as they're occurring, right? So, which is a little bit hard for me to get behind sometimes. Like, I think we're seeing more progressive thoughts in ideology in Star Wars in the last, good Lord, 3 years than we've ever seen. Like, it's happening like in more and more books, which is amazing, and I love that representation. But like it like, to the point, it's happening at such a great rate that, like, I feel like we don't necessarily have to be angry about it. We don't have to be so aggressive about trying to put every single possible type of representation we can put in one single book that we can squeeze in there because, like, that's my belief system. I want to see what I can get away with, which is what it felt like a little bit at times, which I don't know if that's a fair assessment or not. It's not that I even disagree with any of the ideas. I loved all the representation we got in this book. It was fantastic. Don't get me wrong. So, like, I don't know. It did take me out a little bit, to answer the question. And it's not because I disagree with any of the things that were put in there. It just took me out. I mean, I don't know how else to get around it. Like, there's some things that are too close to home, I guess. You know what I mean?
I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's not, as you're saying, a disagreement with the ideas. It's that a lot of us are using these books to escape. Right. And so when you introduce sort of some politically charged or socially charged, whatever ideas, it can sometimes take you out and take you back to some of the stresses, that you're trying to escape by reading this book. I think that's kind of what it comes
exactly.
down to.
I know exactly how I personally feel about legalizing marijuana, right? But do I want to explore that politically charged thing in a Star Wars book? I don't know, man. It's kind of heavy, man. I just want to freaking watch lightsabers and shit. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's one of the fun things, Justin wrote in the chat earlier, when Daniel Jose Older put in non-binary characters in Last Shot, made it a very major point that all main Star Wars characters just respect pronouns. It's not an issue, and I think that's like and like seeing like Yana and Sasha had their relationship in Queen's Peril and Queen's Shadow was like great. Like that's just what the world is, and it's an idealistic view of the world. And I think it just purely comes down to how the page is written. I think that's all. Do I think it shouldn't have been in there? Absolutely not. I love that it was, like you're saying, Corey. But Charles, to your question, did it take you out and put you back in the real world? It did for a second because of the craft itself.
And I feel it shouldn't be. Go ahead, Emma.
Thanks. I agree with you, Eric. I think that it's kind of the difference between representation and then straight up politics,
commentary,
and it definitely has to do with how it's written. You're right, because representation can be folded in very naturally because that's just how the world is. It's very diverse.
It's folded in. I like that. That's
It's like but political commentary is not in our everyday lives, and it is not representative of what our everyday lives are like. Not all of us. I mean, if you work in politics, it's different, but there's a very few of us that do. So I think it's just a difference of how it's written, and also just if it's natural. Our everyday lives are so diverse. So of course representation is going to feel more natural than political commentary. I think that's whether you agree with it or not, I think that's absolutely, normal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, absolutely. But, aside from those moments that maybe took you a little bit out of it, or maybe they didn't, I want to look ahead a little bit because, this was sort of like an unofficial trilogy, if you will. It became certainly an official one, but
it has a page on utini.com, Charles. It is
Indeed.
An official trilogy. Let's be clear.
Canon From trilogy. That's like a trilogy,
Yeah, alliances, treason, Zon. Do you want to write another one? Yeah, we can make a trilogy.
Well, so if this trilogy were to have a sequel of any kind, I'm curious, what aspects out of this entire trilogy would you want to see it focus on? Because there really are a lot of options. This opened a lot of doors.
So this is the OT Padme trilogy. Is there then the sequel trilogy of Padme? And then is there also the prequel trilogy of Padme? Are there 9 Padme books?
Padme as a kid, and we get to see her Paolo and stuff.
Yeah, there's Sabe, a Star Wars story, which no one sees, but is actually very good. And then when it streams, it's actually watched quite a lot. Okay, I get it.
Oh, that's a good question.
We talked about this a lot last time, and I would like to see the Sabe Tondra story to be, elaborated on with the White Suns, with that device that they found that they can remove that the detail that Ike got into about what happens to you whenever they find you, and they just have a self-destruct mechanism that kills the slave. That's insane, right? You could try to get that person back to help, help you with whatever you're doing, but no, you're just gonna kill them outright. But that whole maybe that's like that whole piece of Sabe and Tondra just doing that, what they do on Tatooine and how they get how they free slaves, and what their whole what their relationship is like. We only got a little bit of their relationship, and I think it was in Queen's Peril, right? And then and so a little elaboration on that would be stellar. That's probably the main thing I got out of this book was I want more Sabe and Tondra love story going on after this.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah, I think the crappy answer to this question, then I'll give hopefully a good one. The crappy answer is that I wish Padme hadn't died so we get more Padme. That's the that's the crappy answer.
Zombie Padme book.
I would love the bits of her and Anakin's marriage that we get to see in this book are really quite lovely, and I want more of them, but that's not a thing. a sequel to this trilogy, though. I agree, Wes. I love the Sabe Tanner story. I think there's a lot more in that. I would also, I know we've gotten some of the Amidala stuff in the Vader comic, but it's still a Vader centric comic that involves Sabe, and then it got caught up in the Crimson Reign arc, and like it's a little less straightforward. I would love an actual full-on story from the perspective of the Amidalans and Sabe and Rick Ollier and Sashay and all of them actually reckoning with either what happened or just going on an adventure of some kind. I love how they're written in text, and I love seeing them in comics, but because there's so many things happening in those books that are like bigger, I kind of want a more intimate story like this trilogy with those characters, because I want to be in their heads again. I want the quiet moments again, and I would just really love to see that expanded on. And I think that tonality is best served in a novel versus a comic, which is phenomenal, but I just think a different kind of storytelling.
Yeah, you totally stole my answer there, because I was gonna
Yes!
say like something with the Amidalans, because they're super interesting from the comics. I will add on to that though, like specifically, I would love to see the book start with Padme, right, when she's pregnant. I would love to see like what was her pregnancy like? Did she learn her lesson and tell Sabe this time? Like, what was all of that like? And then, we see her, die, unfortunately. And then I would love to see how Sabe reacted, how all the handmaids reacted, and then see the formation of the Amidalans. Like, that'd be really cool.
Yeah, who came up with the name? It was probably Yane, right? Or no? Like, what are we?
It's
The
probably Rick.
Amidala.
He's secretly creative.
Rick Ollier is like, guys, I'm really good at marketing. I'm sorry, I've hidden this from you. I'm actually amazing at this.
I went to marketing school on Coruscant. I never told anyone.
No one asks.
Oh man, if I die and like you want to avenge my death, you guys gonna form a secret club and call yourselves the Heltonians?
Yeah, but more importantly, Corey, who killed you?
I don't know. Caitlin, obviously, get my life insurance policy. I must be real.
That'd be my first guess.
Darn
I'm a doctor,
Kate over
I
there.
got a fat life insurance policy. Yeah, I probably should be saying that on the air. Yeah, I mean, listen, I've said last time a lot of jokingly about this, but like I still want a really true romance novel between Anakin and Padme, because we've gotten a lot of books that have really touched on the romance that they had and the beautiful love story that they had, and Revenge of the Sith novelization really I think nailed it better than anything else. But we've still yet to get that. We've still yet to get a story that literally just chronicles their love story, like all through the Clone Wars. Like the book is structured where like it just skips around in time, where someone really does the research about the Clone Wars TV show and all the times that they have time together. Because you remember that was a kind of a common theme that comes up a lot. Like there are moments where like the episode will open and Anakin and Padme have just spent some time together or something, right? Like,
yeah,
like it's easy storytelling to be able to pull out those threads and tell the story of what happened. And did they sneak away and go to a high end restaurant on Coruscant as a date, and they had to like hide their identities and stuff? I don't know. That would be a fun story. I still feel like, and like we still haven't quite gotten the like. Everybody kind of villainizes Anakin, maybe rightfully so, right? Because he's Darth Vader, of course. But like nobody has really dived into like maybe he was an okay guy, like to Padme. Maybe there was a reason that Padme liked him, right? Like
I will say this, because the embargo is up, and this is not a full spoiler. You should read Star Wars Brotherhood. There's not a lot, but there are some chapters where that tenderness of Anakin and Padme, Mike Chen actually, he does include that.
Okay,
Nice.
And it's
Hey,
really
that's so
beautiful.
good to hear.
So a little tease
good.
for some of y'all that haven't read it yet. By the time this is up, I hope you've all pre-ordered it by the time the audio is available. But if you haven't and you're looking for some actual just Anakin and Padme like on date night or just having some nice like intimate times, there are some chapters, and it's really nice.
Well, thanks for that, Corey, because now what I need is a story about Padme and Anakin on a date at a restaurant, and Yoda comes in to pick up takeout, and and all the hilarity that ensues.
I knew that you guys were gonna have something to say about my stupid desire. I'm gonna see Padme and Anakin eat out together. Let's go to a nice restaurant.
At Dex's.
Yeah,
Oh man.
Obi-Wan comes in
Okay.
for like intelligence, being like, I don't see you. I don't see you. Just be cool. Just be cool.
All right. Well, all that said, we're going to move on from the overarching questions. We're going to talk about some Easter eggs. Admittedly, there aren't a whole ton that I'm going to throw out at you guys because there are a lot of like, not in jokes, but kind of inside references, if you will. This book referenced a lot of things that happen in earlier novels, and we've done whole roundtables on those moments. So we'll keep it a little bit short and sweet this time around. On page 24, Panaka is talking about Sasha, or is interacting with her, and says he didn't address her by an honorific, and his face softened a little bit when he spoke to her, even as his eyes lingered on the scars he hadn't been able to prevent. After all this time, he still didn't fully understand what he'd built. And I just like this moment. I think it's interesting to see how far Panaka's ideologies have drifted from those of Padme and the Handmaidens. I'd really like to get more of that transition because we see where he was and where he ends up, and we saw a little bit of that middle ground this time around. I want that whole story.
Yeah, that's a great one that we didn't chat about in that sequels. Like Panaka, we get a little bit of that, and then we get a little bit of him later in Bloodline. Is it Bloodline or Leia, Princess of Alderaan? I don't remember which one it is, but he's
I don't think it's
fascinating
Bloodline.
Character.
I think it's Leia, maybe. I don't know.
Good old Quarsh.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Quarsh.
Quarsh. Strange name.
Ooh, it just rolls off the tongue.
It's just rough.
Guttural.
Like all Star Wars names, you
It's
know.
like, who are you talking about? Quarsh over there. Oh yeah,
effort,
Quarsh.
you know?
Oh, he's dreamy.
What's your name? Q. My name's Q. I just go by Q.
From the Bond
No one calls me
films?
that. No one calls you that, Quarsh.
Oh my gosh. Knowing enough about Corey's childhood, for sure, he used to say, I'm going to go course this bug over here real quick.
Why am I being brought into this? I don't have anything to say.
We saw that picture of
man.
you.
Not that Quarsh, damn man. All right.
All right. Page 34. Here's a quote. There was a shrine to Qui-Gon Jinn's memory on Naboo. 10 years had passed, but it was still a popular pilgrimage site. And this is just another cool moment. I think it has been mentioned before that there was a shrine to Qui-Gon on Naboo, but gosh darn, that is deserved. And I love that it got another shout out here.
Loved it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd love
he
to see
pretty
the
much
fan
saved the
art of
planet,
that.
so not surprised.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right, page 68. Yoda is thinking to himself, and it says he missed the days when the Order had let him take younglings out on adventures beyond just the usual quest for their kyber crystals. And that really took me back. Was it so the Order doesn't let him anymore? Like, isn't he the Grand Master? Was he forced into retirement?
It's like when your like grandparents are like too old or something and they can't drive and you
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yoda.
Yoda had his starship license taken away.
yeah. I wonder if that's like a mild High Republic reference though, you know, because of all the High Republic
Probably.
adventure stuff.
Like he took too long of a hiatus, and they're like, "Listen, this is the only thing we can trust you with."
Like, hey, man, you
Adventure-
can't just disappear like that.
Adventures
in
are
phase 3.
pushing
He
kids
comes
off the
back
top of the temple and hoping they don't splat.
Hey, maybe he accidentally killed one. Is that what you're saying?
Read Midday Horizon.
We don't talk about that. All right. Yoda on page 69 says, yes, always in motion the Senate is, which was, of course, a nice callback to his future line from Empire Strikes Back. On page 71, we
Always
had...
in motion the Senate is. Come on.
Yeah.
Could also be like a little callback to his fight with Palpatine, and they're chucking the Senate pods around. You know, they're in motion.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
Indeed.
Boo! Boo! Amazing. Amazing. Well,
You're not immune, Emma.
Speaking of the Senate, on page 71, we have a quote. The Gungan's well-meant speech in the Senate had allowed the Chancellor powers that Bale did not approve of, but he was enough of a realist to admit that it would have happened anyway. Chancellor Palpatine had a way of getting what he wanted. And I love this. Thank you. It is not Jar Jar's fault. Everyone always talks about how Jar Jar's the one that instigated the emergency powers. No. Okay, it had nothing to do with Jar Jar. And Bail Organa, right? Eric understands this.
I mean, come on. The best political mind of the time, aside from maybe Palpatine, is like, nah, I get it. It would been fine. He would have gotten one of those ET aliens to do it. They would have been like, Palpatine, and that would have been it.
Oh my God!
Well,
it
Matt
would've been subtitled.
Matt Davenport in the chat. Hello, Matt. Welcome to the friggin' show. Darth Sidious, I fought. Into exile I went. Sure, Master Yoda. Let's get you your Pedialyte and into your chair.
Eat another bug, my guy.
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
that's wonderful.
Good. That's good.
All right. On page 96, 5 Blossom Bread is mentioned, and that's a Naboo delicacy that's featured throughout this trilogy, and it's known to be a favorite of Padme's, and you can even see her share some of it with Anakin in the Clone Wars TV show. And funny enough, if you want to make your own, you can do that because it is in the official Black Spire Outpost cookbook.
Oh,
No
hey.
way.
Yes. So go
Available
make
from
yourself-
Inside Editions.
Yeah. Go make yourself some 5 Blossom Bread. On page 102, Sasha is speaking to Harley and says, oh, so it was someone else who arranged for us to sneak out of the Theed Palace to see that concert? And that's a reference, of course, to the events of Queen's Peril and the infamous Neurotransmitter Affection concert. So
One of the greatest
Great callback
retired
there.
Utini shirts.
absolutely. Absolutely. On page 125, here's a quote for you. First, the steamer blew a gasket, and then the coolant leaked out of the refrigeration units, and then 6 rowdy pod race hotheads showed up 15 minutes before the cantina was supposed to close. So we get another pod racing reference. It's one per book at this point, and you gotta follow the breadcrumbs somewhere, right?
Yeah.
Give me pod racing.
Pod
I'm
race
so ready.
hothead.
Charles,
showed up.
this is the worst thing to do on a live podcast, I understand, but because I don't want to say anything for other folks, remind me once we get off air about something about Brotherhood. I'll tell you about pod racing.
Oh my
Oh,
gosh.
Okay, spoiler alert. We'll do it. I'm
There's not a
excited.
pod race in the book. I'll say that. Don't get your hopes up too high, but remind me.
Okay. All right. On page 143 of this book, a Mriss species is featured, and that's incredibly difficult to say. This was the first canon appearance for the species, but it was first mentioned actually in Timothy Zahn's The Last Command, believe it or not. And in the legends section on Wikipedia, where I do quite a bit of research in my free time, I kid you not, it says, and I quote, Mrissi are not to be confused with Mrissi of Mrist, who are also a small scholarly race of flightless birds. Really?
Oh my God.
Wait, there's
what?
2 of them?
Where is Trev
That's
and
not
Jose
fair.
when you need them? This is a Star Wars Archives episode if
We
ever
need the
I've seen
Mrist
one.
episode, hardcore.
Yes, just absurd, but that is classic Star Wars Legends.
Mercy of Marist.
Not to be
Come on.
confused.
Yeah, come on.
Hey guys, let's put so many consonants in this. The audiobook narrators want to kill us. Oh no, it's MLZRKIF. That's the person's name. Have
I
fun.
think that was my opening Wordle guess this morning. On page 143, Mailaroon juice is mentioned, and that made it, of course, is made from the most popular fruit probably in the Star Wars galaxy, thanks to Rebels. But this beverage can also be purchased at Galaxy's Edge from Ronto Roasters.
It's so good. It's
Go
legit so good.
Go
You
get
gotta
some of
get
that.
the Mailaroon
Try
juice.
that.
Is it very
Ooh,
expensive? It's so
good.
scarce. I mean,
Like-
how do they find it?
Yeah, that's why it's not because it's Disney, it's because it's scarce. Yes, Wes, you are correct. That's why
I was
the
gonna
price is
say-
hay.
I was gonna say, Wes, don't you know everything at Disney is way too expensive?
Oh,
It's all
$14
there.
drinks.
They have
I
to get
can't
it
wait.
to Batu. Come on now.
try 18 for Ogas.
Ah.
Yeah.
I'll do it.
It's vacation money and it's Imperial credits, so who cares? It's not real.
Well,
Charles?
speaking of foods and drinks, on page 149, something is mentioned, and we don't know exactly what this is, but they're called Hyelian musical noodles. Yes, that is right.
Noodle gang.
Where's the noodle gang at? We have noodles back in Star Wars. Thank you so much for that, E.K. Johnson.
She
On
knew. She knew
page-
the reference.
She
Yep.
probably did. On page 154, Anaconda Farr is mentioned, aka Uncle Ano, as featured in the Clone Wars television series, perhaps most famously when he's murdered in season 2, episode 15. Spoiler alert.
Famously
I don't
unalived.
remember him.
I believe he dies drinking poisoned wine, and that leads me into page 157 when Tanneray wine is mentioned, which is
Charles,
an
I'm so proud of
Alderaanian.
these segues.
Thank you. It's an Alderaanian beverage loved by none other than Bail Organa.
Which you
on
can order at
page-
Oga's. It's fine.
Oh, really? Tanneray wine is there too?
Just
It's
fine.
fine and
It's the best
expensive.
you got.
It's Sauvignon Blanc with food coloring, but it's Star Wars. Yeah! I
Oh,
bought
my
it.
God.
I'll buy it again. Come on.
On page 213, Barra Sophie actually makes an appearance, which was
Right.
crazy. And she says, "My masters trained me to fight, and I'm good at it, but I prefer to work in the medical center." And that really grabbed my attention, not because I work in a medical center, but it's stated in canon that she prefers studying to fighting, I think on several occasions. But her medical talents are really more of a reference to Legends and the MedStar duology, right? So
Yeah, for sure.
nice kind of wink and a nod there to some Legends.
Legends,
material.
legends, legends.
That's right.
Uh-huh.
Jared is now in the chat.
Yeah, he is.
On page 215, Plo Koon and the Wolfpack are mentioned, which is a great callback to some of Filoni's favorites from the Clone Wars. On page 246, Dexter Jetster, everyone's favorite Basilisk, makes an appearance as well.
What do you know?
What do you know?
Buddy.
Oh man.
And
How
lastly,
big your pocketbook is.
oh god, every time.
Every time. We gotta get all three. We're like, it's like a Woody doll, but you just gotta do the whole thing every time he's mentioned.
Last one on page 253, the phrase aggressive negotiations is used, which is a common line from Padme and Anakin's banter throughout the prequels. So it's nice to see that kind of carry through into these books as well.
Had to be.
Absolutely.
It did. And this roundtable had to be done. And unfortunately, it is at that. That is all we have for this roundtable. I want to finish up just by taking a moment to sort of reflect on this reading experience as a whole. I want y'all to take a moment, give any final thoughts you have. As we explained in part one, where we didn't rate this book with a numerical value, so I don't care how that might have changed if it did in your own mind. I just want to hear your final thoughts on what it was to read this book for the first time through. Corey, why don't you go first?
Yeah, happy to. I think there's a lot of really great things to take away from this Padme trilogy. I'm very happy that it exists in and of itself. Like, I think if I step back and look at canon as a whole, if I were to pick out like a couple of the most important, I guess, like as a society, as Star Wars fans, as curators of the books, if that's what we are, like that exist, like I think the Padme books are in there, man. I think the trilogy exists. I think it's awesome. I love that we have really awesome women in Star Wars, and they're getting their individual story, and they all have agency, and it's really, really good representation. It's fantastic. I mean, I'm really glad that we have this trilogy. I think it's important. I think it's important as fans to see themselves and what they read. I think it's important to that for girls to know that Star Wars is not just for white dudes. You know what I mean? Like, I'm very pleased that it exists. It means a lot to me. I had. I've not really talked about this much on the show, but I had 3 younger sisters growing up, and that's all I had. I don't have any brothers, so I was like surrounded by women growing up. That's all I had. Classic dad jokes about, oh, you're the only man in the house. What are you gonna do with all those women? That was my childhood, right? So I've been around women forever, right? And I love to see that, like that women can. Yeah, that's my dad impression. There you go.
Good.
I will say all those things. I really enjoyed that. I will say that of the 3 books in the trilogy, I did feel like maybe this one was a little bit of the weakest. I felt like it really pushed the boundary with comments about politics and things like that in here, which were kind of weird and took me out. Like, it felt like a little bit of like the author was a little maybe too injecting stuff in there, maybe a little bit too much, and it sort of took away from the story for me a little bit. I feel like, and the structure of this story in particular, the very last one was sort of odd. We started with strong Padme stuff, we ended with strong Padme stuff. We had a Clone Wars episode in the middle, and it was kind of an odd structure of the book. So, I definitely think of the 3, if we're talking of a pure quality basis, this one certainly had a little bit more that it could have used some improvements on, but. you know, it's not everything can conclude beautifully. So, you know, I'm happy that we did get a full trilogy, and you know, it is what it is. So, you know, I think it's a cool experience, and I'm happy to recommend these books to people in the future.
Yeah. Yeah. Emma, what do you think?
Yeah, I am just, generally really happy that we have this trilogy. I think it's, like Corey was saying, it's important for so many reasons. And yeah, I'm sad to see it wrap up, to be honest. Just getting more Padme content, it felt good. It felt like it should have happened like a while ago, and I'm glad that it's at least happening now. I will agree with Corey too that this one was my least favorite of the trilogy, but that's more of a comment on how good the other two were, I think, not a comment on that this one was like bad or anything.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah.
I like
Good.
that.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Again, I feel like EK kind of keeps upping the ante on representation in each of these, and I think that's super important as well. And just, seeing our female Star Wars characters kind of have their own starring role in something,
Yeah.
because, they were kind of secondary in their respective trilogies, and to see them get the shining light that they deserve finally is really nice. And we got a lot of great characters to explore too, and I hope we explore them in the future.
Absolutely. Wes, what do you think?
So for the overall trilogy, I think this is a great complement to the prequel trilogy, the movies. So whenever we did the first book, Queen's Shadow, and we watched episode 1, it was a great like interlude. It was a great like intersection of how like all of the handmaidens worked with Padme, because you saw them in the background, but you didn't know any of their story. And then you got that story, and then when you go back and watch episode 1 again, you're like, oh, that is what that is from.
It made them cool.
Yeah, it really did.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing I got out of this trilogy. Like, it was such a great compliment to the movies. With this, and then with Queen's Hope, it showed me that how Anakin and Padme's relationship, their love for each other, was so strong, and that's why we were watching episode 3 and we're like, why is Padme putting up with this bullshit? And it's because she was so in love with Anakin, and because she wouldn't even tell her handmaidens, like, and her friends, her best friends, that she would gone off and got married. I mean, so there's your explanation of why she basically died for Anakin, just to try to see if he could be turned away. But,
I want that line to be in the romantic Padme novel. I want Padme to say, Anakin, I don't have to put up with this bullshit.
But I will, because I love you, you
my thought, because I
idiot.
saw you and Charles just laughing.
Absolutely, man.
Oh man. All right, Eric, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think this trilogy, for me, I think y'all put it in a really nice way. I think this has really shown what the expanded, even though we don't call it the expanded universe anymore, like, this is the expanded version of Star Wars literature. This is something that retroactively makes the prequels so fascinating and brings me a character that I love now with Sabe, and a character that I've elevated like Padme, and has really shown the power of the books that they can have on the movies. And I think that's so unique in Star Wars. And I think this trilogy maybe does it better than any other so far. I agree with Corey. I think Queen's Hope was not as strong as the other two entries, but I think as a whole, this has kind of shown the power of these kind of stories that take these characters that maybe you didn't love as much at first, but can really have a giant impact on the galaxy as a whole. They can show how the power of love, the power of actual friendship, not like in a cliche, but in a very real, tangible way, how powerful friendship can be, how powerful art and music and like all these cultures, like the Naboo, like the Alderaan, like all the things they put into the galaxy that weren't just war. What did they have to add? And I think that's a really nice, great statement to put into the world as far as books go and as far as Star Wars goes. I love that we got it. I hope that we get more books like this in the future, absolutely. And I think it's exciting to know that books like these can exist in a world where we're also getting books of giant war conflicts and exciting action in like it just shows how Star Wars is so vast. It's not like it's like Marvel movies now. People are like, oh, I don't like Marvel movies. I'm like, that doesn't make sense. Because there's spy thrillers, there's magic movies, there's teen angst dramas. Like Star Wars is so much more than just laser swords and blaster fire. And I think that's what this trilogy really showed in a really beautiful way. To folks that maybe would not have picked up this kind of book if a Star Wars character hadn't been on the cover, maybe now folks that are like, you know what, that was a lot of fun. What are some other non-Star Wars books about young women going through trials? I think I actually like that. Maybe I'll check that out. And I think that could be really cool.
Yeah, no, I like that. And I think that kind of leads me into, honestly, my biggest thought looking back at not just this book, but this trilogy. And if y'all remember, maybe if you're listening to this and you haven't listened to this show for a very long time, when Queen's Shadow came out, there was a running joke on this show that we were cursed by that book. We recorded the roundtable how many times, Eric? 3? Was it three times?
Yes, sir.
And we kept losing it.
Thrice.
And there were weird moments where you would speak its name into existence and the shutters would fly up and then our stream would break. And no, but we were not huge fans of that book the first time around. And the fact that we had all those tech problems, we had to revisit it. And we ended up really, really enjoying that book and whatnot. And what you were just saying, Eric, about how maybe people wouldn't have picked up, a book by its cover or whatever. I may not have picked up Queen's Shadow, if it weren't for this podcast. And I think I'm better for having read that story. I think I'm better for having read this trilogy. Yeah. And, looking back, I have some fond memories from this trilogy. So I think that's just speaks towards what this roundtable experience in general does, not just for our enjoyment of a particular project, but I think they're probably bettering us by just making us kick some of these ideas around.
Yeah, I think that's a very good point that like Star Wars is for women and there are going to be pieces of content that don't speak to every single person. So I think it's important for fans to chase that, like to seek to be better, right? I mean, Star Wars fans have a bit of a reputation for being loud, obnoxious white dudes. And like I think it's important for us to kind of get out of our comfort zone and read a story I feel like is for women. And that's cool. And I agree. Like Queen's Hope, that was the first one, right? Queen's Shadow was the first one. Queen's Shadow was the first. Queen's Shadow specifically, more so than any other book in all of Star Wars since I started a Star Wars book company, has made me a better Star Wars fan. Specifically, I've said before that first kind of roundtable discussion that we did about Queen's Shadow was probably a little more negative, and then we revisited it years later and it was better, and then we revisited it a third time and it was even better the third time. So it's that is not a commentary on how and how we learn how to talk on the internet. It's a commentary on how I learned how to appreciate Star Wars because of things like that, right? And I am a better person for having challenged myself and read something that's weird and different out of my comfort zone. And I think these books do that for a lot of men, and they should, right? I think this is what the path forward looks like, and this is how we get other people to like Star Wars. This is how you get our wives to like Star Wars, and our girlfriends, and our siblings, and I think it's really, really important. I can't say that enough. I don't know that any other trilogy in all of Star Wars is as important as this. Like it really is. Like it really is kind of the first. This is there's no other story that's more for women than this. Like and I love that about this trilogy.
Yeah, I love all of what you just said, and it's kind of funny because all of our lives, women have been like reading or watching things that were like written or made for men. And like now we're kind of like flipping that on its head a little bit. And so I think it's a great exercise in just, reading things, out of your comfort zone. And I love hearing you guys say that. And honestly, like it never needed to be proven, but just so everybody in the audience knows, these are good guys right here. Like these are good guys.
I don't know about Wes, but
we need a producer.
Oh man,
I'm nice to set off for you idiots.
That's probably true.
Well,
oh man,
guys, thank you for doing this. Emma, thank you for being here. I'm really glad that you're part of this roundtable.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And Eric, take us home, buddy.
All right. Well, I love y'all. I hope y'all had a great time talking about this book. Next week, we are diving to Kenobi week. And my gosh, then it's Star Wars Celebration week, isn't it? My goodness, it came fast, but I could not be happier to be on this road with all of you. But on that note, my friends, that'll do it for this week's episode of The Living Force. If you support us on Patreon, thank you so much for everything you do for us. We hope you enjoy everything we're able to get back, and thank you again for our ability to produce at the level we do. We love you all so much. A special thank you to OK Endar, Brian Dooley, Patrick Ortiz, Earl Q, and Carl Stander on our Jedi High Council, and Elizabeth Cloutier, Freddie C, and Sally and Chris Eilerson on our Alliance High Command. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Eric Eilerson, Corey is at Corey M. Helton, Charles is at C. Henkel, Wes is at Boss Wes, and Emma is at Irma Jedi 26. A special thank you to Matt Davenport, our amazing editor, Ryan, our graphic designer extraordinaire, and Wes, our producer and community manager. Thank you to Corey, Charles, Wes, and Emma for potting with me tonight. Thanks to all of you for watching and listening wherever you are. And as always, we are brave, Your Highness.